A common question I've seen come up after last lecture was about the difference between print and return. I can understand where it comes from because both print and return are providing some kind of an output, but they're different kinds of output. So I know we use the same word, output, for both of them, but they're outputting to different places. So what is the difference between print and return? I'll break it down here. Print we've been using for a while now, and I want you to really think kind of print being pretty close to synonymous with turning on pixels in the terminal. So in your terminal, in the output of your program, and the computer runs the program, in the output of the entire program, we see pixels on the screen turned from black to white, showing some sort of letters. So print is a function that is giving output from the entire program to the computer, which usually so far in this class always is printing to the terminal. This print function can be called from anywhere. It can be called from inside of another function. It can be called from just the regular inside of your file, not inside of a function anywhere. Print doesn't return any value, and so you'll notice we never do anything like x equals print hello world, because print as a function doesn't return a value. There would be nothing to assign to the variable x if we did that. And again, to summarize, the communication that print does is to outside of the program. So you're communicating to the terminal or whoever is calling, like running this program to the computer. Return, on the other hand, is very specific. It can only be used inside of a function, and it specifically defines the value that the function call will evaluate to. So here, we have this function return hello that returns hello. And when we do value equals return hello, nothing will get printed yet. All that happens is the Python comes across this line and it needs to evaluate this expression, this function call. And to do that, it goes and executes the body of the function. And in the body of our function, we have a return hello world statement, which then immediately ends execution of the body and evaluates this function call to this string hello world, which is then assigned into the variable value. Now, what happens after this point is up to you. And in fact, in this code, you can see that I go ahead and I print the return value, print return value, value. So I print out hello world. You can see that in the output here. And I can go on and do whatever I want. This is now just a regular string that I can use in my program. I can get the length of that string. Based on that length, I can do something else, like print that string out. So these return statements can only be used within a function. And by the way, return is not a function, it's a statement. And it doesn't print anything to the screen. All it does is it specifies the value that the function call should evaluate to. What someone else in your program does with that return value is up to them. But crucially, the value goes to somewhere else in the program and doesn't get put out onto the screen. And I want to point out the output of my program over here. When I do value equals print hello on the left here, for the this print hello function just prints a statement, you'll notice there's no return statement inside of this function. And so when this function is executed, print hello, and this expression is evaluated, it has a return value of none. So it has no value. And that's why when I down here print the return value, we get return value none. Speaking of none, you might be wondering, wait a second, what is none? What is this thing that gets printed none? Well, this is another brand new thing we're going to learn about functions today. There's this question, what happens when a function doesn't return anything? Just like my example up there. So here, our function doesn't return anything. And I told you, return statements are optional. So what if we do x equals print hello world, or some other function that has no return value? What does the expression get evaluated to? Well, let's find out. You saw in the screenshot earlier that none gets printed. Okay, but what is the actual value that's stored in the value? It's actually a brand new type, special kind of value. So none is the special value. It's used for the case where there is no value to be set. And you might be wondering, hey, what's the type of this value? It's actually a special type, a fifth type. You already know integers, floats, booleans, and strings. Now you're learning a fifth type, this none type, that's only used, the only value you can possibly have is none. You can't do any math with it, and there's no operators that operate on none. It's just used when you want to set an empty value. And most commonly, you come across this when you have a function that just doesn't return anything. And you call that function and you set its return, like this expression, this print hello call, you assign the value of that expression to some variable, and because it doesn't return anything, Python assigns none. There's other times you'll use this. It'll come up when you kind of want to set a default value before a value exists. So for example, here, the TA name starts off as none if the TA name equals none. So you can compare and check if a value, if some variable holds a value of none, then maybe you'll decide to set a value for TA name. So this is pretty common. Maybe you'll create a variable. Optionally, by default, it'll be none in the function call. You can specify a parameter that has a default value of none. And then if the parameter is none, you do something. Otherwise, you use whatever the user passed in.